I am your host, Kyle Fergusson. Garrett is on vacation, but I am joined this evening by our man in the trenches, Jeff Cannata. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. It's a little rough down here these days, but it's always rough down in the trenches. I'm excited to be here. Very excited for all of the crazy news and new characters we get to talk about today. It's going to be a good episode.
Yeah, a lot to talk about. But when we last had you on, we had only just had Malthael release. How did that go? Well, actually, you hadn't finished your placements yet, so can we still say you're in silver? Where are you at?
Yep, silver 2.
Okay.
Silver 2.
Okay.
But I've been doing all right. I've been doing a lot of winning. I'm above 500, which is always a good thing for me. And I'm doing it on the back of basically 2 heroes that I've been playing lately. Malthael and Dahaka. That's my 2 go-tos right now, which is very strange for me because those weren't really in my rotation until just recently, but they've been doing well for me. I've been playing a lot of Malthael, and I'm usually the guy who's like a little hipstery and a little when there's a new hotness, I'm like, I'll wait. I'm usually like 1 or 2 heroes behind, and I guess I am a hero behind on Malthael because Stukov is out, but I was kind of playing Malthael right as he was hitting, and that was very new for me. And it was kind of fun to be riding the wave during the Suns Out Guns Out promotion,
nice
riding the wave of the new hero. It's been fun.
And as those changes came through, Malthael got nerfed down. Did you stay on him? And did your community stay on him?
Yeah, it's not, it's not the sort of auto first pick he once was, but I just really enjoy the character, and I wasn't really playing him because he was considered OP. I was playing him because I actually dug the mechanics, and I'm still having a great time with him. Yeah, he's not instilling fear into my opponents as he was the first couple of weeks, but I'm still having a blast with him, and I'm really loving Dahaka too. I'm having a great time playing Dahaka.
Oh, neat. So you're really in the I'm going to spin and buzz into their faces and they'll die territory at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he can do a lot of damage, and as I think you said on a previous episode, you have to kill Dahaka 3 times.
Yeah.
It's great. It's so funny. He comes back from the dead, he comes back from the near dead 3 times. And it's so fun to just be like, feel like, oh, they got me. Nope. It's fun.
Did you ever end up playing other you got Brightwing, clearly.
Yeah.
But like Illidan, when you went on to Malthael, was there any connection there, or is Malthael your first big dive character?
No, I played a lot of Illidan. I haven't played him in a long time, but there was a period when I took Illidan, to 10. I mean, I got him, gold. I guess that's 15 now, but back in the day, I took Illidan and got my master skin with him, but I haven't played him in a long, long time, and I never really considered myself one of those great Illidan players. Actually, the time I was playing Illidan was when Chromie was first launched, and a lot of people were playing Chromies, and I was just like eating all the Chromies. It was so fun as Illidan. I was just diving hard on Chromie and killing lots of Chromies. So I think that's when I played a lot of Illidan. So it hasn't been for a long, long time.
I'm always curious to hear how the decision process expands. One thing I've been thinking about a lot recently is how we get game knowledge out to people when maybe something like Genji, his kit just says kill people. And Malthael can take a camp a little bit. Illidan can do that too. But Genji's in this special place where you're not going to learn the greater strategy when all you want to do is just go kind of Nova the battlefield over and over again.
Yeah, totally. He's Nova. He's Nova without stealth, and I really, really don't like that play style. I'm not that guy. I don't enjoy that. I enjoy the team dynamic. I have been, as I've played Malthael, I've been taking a lot of camps, and I find that really helps mid game to be the guy that can go and just get a merc camp at the right time. So yeah, I've never really been. I've literally never played Nova once. I hate that character, and
Really?
I haven't been drawn to Genji either.
That is some serious principle. I like it. So not only do you hate them, but you refuse to touch them.
Yeah, no, I own Nova because I got her in some package at one point or another. But I will not sully my roster with Nova.
It's interesting to hear what heroes and archetypes people enjoy. Sonya is everywhere right now in Diamond, making a big comeback. And through that, allowing my Mad Money Leorix and Tychuses to become viable again. And now Chen got his little buff we're going to talk about. And so things are a little wild at the moment. But it's just so interesting to me because that takes this mindset, this person who is spinning on top of an entire enemy team just going, oh yeah, like you're not killing anybody. You're just surviving. And I don't enjoy, but I totally get why someone would want to do that. And it is probably the biggest hole in my roster. I just don't want to play Sonya, but I have such mad respect for anyone who gets that good with that, particularly Wrath of the Berserker players. I just don't know why you wouldn't want Leap. I get it though.
Yeah. Leap is so fun, and Wrath of the Berserker is not really, but it's pretty potent when you do it right. I've never really been drawn to Sonya either, but when there's a really great Sonya on my team or on the enemy team, you give them mad respect because they just don't die, and they can take down people, and your entire team is like, oh, just get rid of that Sonya, and that's the wrong move.
Well, yeah, you eventually learn to get rid of the Sonya, and then she hits 16, 20 with all those shields and damage negations and just, oh. But I am happy to announce that I did find some pretty serious Zen this week.
Oh, good.
For Heroes of the Storm. I'm talking a lot about my mains, trying to get people to sort of focus in, but it leaves a big hole. What happens, and particularly with me having now Zagara, 88% win rate, I'm pretty darn proud of that at the moment. Nazeebo, Tychus, and those are kind of the main Zul'jin if I'm last pick kind of thing to make sure there's no blinds. I can take those 4 characters crazy seriously, and absolutely, particularly with something like Zagara and Nidus, I can squirrel, your fight's bad, you're picking bad fights, let me go steal a keep kind of business. And it's been truly effective, and I've climbed my way up from last week Diamond 5 to Diamond 3 this week.
So tell me a little bit about your playstyle with Zagara. You're in there in the team fights when needed, and then you just bounce as soon as it's over and go and push a lane? Is that basically what you're doing?
To an extent, yeah. It is a decision-making process, and if I think your fight is bad, I will not participate because I can go steal that keep. I have that ability, that luxury, perhaps. But the global of the Nidus allows me to also ideally participate in every single good fight that they pick. So I'll run in, throw out all my Banelings, but then again, the Nidus has a battle momentum on it, so every time you attack, you reduce your other cooldowns. So you're just by participating, you're going to be doing more damage, casting more spells. It gives you mana and health back. So every time you show up for that fight, you're full. When you go take that keep, you're full again. It's just a really great way to take advantage of all these. Poor decisions by tanks recently, actually, is probably my biggest issue. I think people like Muradin and Arthas have slowly taught tank players to just go for it as long as they can. And once again, I get it. Because you're in there, you're on Muradin, and you do the Thunderclap, Echo, to give you a second heal on the healing stack. You just last forever, and at some point, about halfway through the fight, you realize you have no damage, and you are 1v3, and no one showed up, and that's when Muradin tries to leap away, but they're on his business. But the real Zen I have now is that I have these characters that I know I'm good at, and I can, with confidence, say, that's a bad fight, I'm not participating, I'm going to go do this other thing. And if they argue with me, I have the confidence, ego built up perhaps, to deal with that. However, if I ever end up on anything but those 4, I'm just imagining the coin in the air. And that is helping me out so much right now. I'm drafting smartly, I'm doing something creative perhaps, I'm aiding the team, I'm getting that tanker support we needed. But in my head, I'm saying this is not my main. And that 60%, that 88% that I can expect, that's not this. This is 50% flat.
So in Diamond, what kind of team comps are you seeing? Are you seeing dual tank? What is the makeup that lets you fit your Zagara or Nazeebo in elegantly?
Those are of course map dependent, and I wouldn't do Nazeebo on Warhead Junction. It's too big for him to get his stacks. But there I have all that squirrely busy bee room to run around on Zagara, and there's actually not a style right now, and I didn't really recognize that. We go in and out of double tank. We went through a double wizard phase for a little bit there, double support. I think the biggest thing I'm seeing right now is a lot of stitches, and the individual Stitches cares very much if they're solo tank or have another tank with them. Very, very interesting. I have my own preference too when it comes to tanking. I don't want an off tank because you're just messing up the engagements I'm making, the telegraphing that I'm telling my players.
That's fascinating. You want to be the lone shot caller on the engagement.
Right, but after naming my characters here, I'm not making those decisions at the moment. But I am deciding if I'm going to hang out with the good tank, hang out with the good support, or, like I said, if I need to go this is a bad fight, I'm going to go try to win on my own.
Right. That's interesting. That's fascinating. I think that's great. I think that those characters, Nazeebo and Zagara in particular, are the ones that certainly can have the biggest swing for a team. They're. I feel like specialists are kind of undervalued in a lot of ways, and they can have such an impact on the map. And I think that I just have never played specialists well. I try to incorporate them more and more into my repertoire, but I do recognize the fact that they are a big.
Most certainly. And the lane clear, you're always going to have some sort of comeback mechanic. That's why I like my Tychuses, anything with a giant killer on it, because there's just that chance that we can win. Yeah. That's why ETC Mosh Pit every single time.
Are you seeing Zagara's get banned?
No, and it's frightening. It's what I'm doing feels bad. It feels insane. I don't want Blizzard to fix it at the moment because it's working so well. But for instance, I am on Haunted Mines, a small map taking Nidus network, and it is working phenomenally because I can have that node down in the basement that allows me to travel down there instantly from wherever I was on the map. Plus, there's this thing in the basement of the Haunted Mines where your summons follow you. So once you reach Mutalisk with a 45-second duration, you are looking at a Mutalisk accompanying you everywhere you go down there, and you're auto-attacking, getting resets. You can have 3 Mutalisks. I have 1v1 to Malthael I found down there because I'm riding with my entourage.
That's pretty rad. That's cool. I don't know how it is in your league, but in my league, I think people undervalue the camps on that map, and I feel like playing a specialist, that's where I tend to pick specialists, or even Malthael's great there. If I can own the camps, if we can get 50 skulls and then just own the camps, we're doing pretty good.
That's a strategy I've grabbed onto as well, is just get down there right now. There's a lot of people saying just ignore the bottom. I think that maybe works in lower leagues, but you gotta create that pressure. There has to be this feeling on the enemy team that we have to go down there, which means they're panicking, they're out of position, and they're the ones ultimately making the mistakes.
Right. I'm seeing a whole bunch of Zool still, even with the nerf that hit, yesterday, day before? Lots of Zools.
Yeah, I believe it, and the pick rate is suggesting as much. Are you still seeing Asmodans?
Yeah, a fair amount of Asmodan. Asmodan, Zool, Sylvanas are really the only specialists I see. Nazeebo has fallen off a cliff. I don't see. There was a time like about a month ago when it was just wall-to-wall Nazebos, and I don't see him anymore. Very, very rarely.
He did have a bug that just got fixed in this patch. It was stopping him from getting his stacks, and the whole level 20 get your stacks thing wasn't very achievable anymore. Basically, if you poisoned up a lane that would then transform into stacks, and Kael'thas came by and said, mine, it would all be gone and no stacks would transform to you off that hit. So it was a pretty big bug.
Interesting.
But we do have Garrosh to talk about, as well as all those changes. We were sort of right. I think I said I would like to see Garrosh as a multi-class transforming hero, but in fact he has been announced as a full-blown solo warrior.
I think since Garrett isn't here, we ought to give him a little props that he called this based on the silhouette.
I don't know if I can trust Blizzard again now. They took out the shoulders. It's the one iconic thing that would have let us know that was Garrosh. I think it was too tricksy.
Well, they have shown over and over and over again they like to be a little deceptive on these reveals or these hint reveal things. But I'm excited. I mean, he's one of those big marquee Warcraft characters that hasn't been in the game yet. His kit is not particularly flashy, but I think he's going to be really fun to play.
I would agree. He's almost like this bizarre combination of everything they've done. It's got a little bit of Stitches in it. It's got a little bit of even Zul'jin in it.
Yeah.
A little bit of Johanna. I mean, the talents are fascinating, but let's go ahead and get into his, first of all, his straight, which is the Zul'jin part of him. Garrosh gains 1 armor for every 2% of maximum health he's missing. This has also been displayed with a brand new armor indicator.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I like how it evokes the warrior class from Hearthstone. You know, that's so dependent on armor. I think that's cool thematic thing that it carries through. And, you know, it's going to really be interesting to see how people combat that with, you know, percentage health, talents, and all that stuff, because he'll, unlike Zul'jin, he doesn't really have a "you can't kill me now" button, you know?
Yeah, I'm very curious to know, and I'm assuming this at this point, that his armor applies after the damage. I hope so. But that also means he's now vulnerable to burst, in a sense. If you suddenly destroy him down to half health, that previous big burst of damage didn't have the 25 armor that he now has.
Yeah. I honestly think, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, I feel like Zul'jin, part of your strategy is to walk that line of health and be kind of live in the low health place to get a lot of damage. I don't think that's going to be the same thing with Garrosh. I feel like he's going to benefit a little bit, but there's not going to be a strategy to sort of hang out with low health.
Yeah, you do have to spec into anything that does bonus damage based on the amount of armor you have. So that's not his base kit working out. The interesting thing about Zul'jin is you're always trying to get the enemy to make a mistake. You're being tempting. You're sitting there going, "Hey, Greymane, would you like to try to kill him?" And then he jumps you and you say, "No, I'm invincible, just kidding. You couldn't get me in the first place." I don't know if that's going to work out. We like wailing on tanks and when they get low, but this new armor indicator does give me some hope that we now will see something like 10 armor on a Worgen and 50 armor, well, up to anyway, on Garrosh. He has a talent where he can double his armor at one point, so he can have up to that maximum 75. Flat armor too, spell and physical damage. I assume, hopefully, when people see that 75, they'll go, "Okay, no thanks."
Right. We'll see. Yeah.
His first ability is Groundbreaker. This is a small cone that on the edge of it pulls people towards him and deals a bit of damage, 81.
This is one of those talents for a quick cast junkie like myself that's going to drive me a little crazy, because I'm going to have to get in there and not make this a quick cast, because I think it'll be hard to just eyeball where the edge is without the indicator, you know?
Yeah, ideally you just kind of hammer through the hard times and eventually you just have the feeling of what the Leaming Orb is going to be like.
Right.
Missing that half second means they've now moved. You're not going to hit that Chromie Bolt. So quick cast ideally with time. But you're right. It's a small edge that actually gives you the pull. Otherwise, you're just doing okay damage.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. You said he sort of evokes a little of Stitches, and it's interesting how he really, what Stitches tends to do, he takes 2 talents to do. You know, he's kind of got this 1-2 punch of pulling and punishing.
But his damage has sort of snuck up recently, and I'm curious to see if Garrosh will be putting out similar damage. There's also this Bloodthirst. His W deals damage, but heals Garrosh for 10% of the health he's missing. So this is sort of where they made it unique. 100% bonus healing against heroes, but unlike Stitches, who has a 20% max health heal and does a lot more damage, this will be more frequent, but just that missing part.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And this is where you play that game of my low health is beneficial to me. So maybe there's still some of that walking that edge, but I feel like it's just about survivability, right? It's not really, it's like, oh, you thought you could kill me, you're not really killing me. Whereas Zul'jin is, you thought you could kill me, I'm going to kill you.
You're going to remove your own armor a little bit, but the heal, any sort of shielding is going to be more beneficial with that armor on top of it. And it's just going to be so bizarre to see how fluid that is. And I'm not sure if I want to attack him, I guess is what I'm saying at the moment.
Yeah.
And we'll find out with time. But there's also this ability here, which is, I think, causing a pretty big stir. Wrecking Ball. Throw a nearby enemy hero, minion, or mercenary to the target location, dealing damage and slowing them by 30%.
So let me understand this. Maybe you have a better sense of this than I do. You target where you're throwing the thing to, and then it selects the target that's closest to you, or do you first select the target and then select the destination?
So when you're standing there, you will have this horde symbol that appears around you, and it'll be anything that is in range to be grabbed, favoring the hero. I'm not sure what the order, but I would assume it favors a mercenary next and then a minion last. So that's how you know what is available to throw, and by positioning yourself closest to that thing, you send it to the target location. You don't click the hero and then choose where they go separately.
It's fascinating because there's a whole variety of strategies with this. I mean, it's kind of Diablo's body slam, but because you can target exactly where you want it to go, it gives you so many more options on how to use it. It's fascinating.
Yeah, real scary too, because you imagine everyone's made the mistake. Everybody knows, don't put your face on the wall when Diablo's on the other team. He'll pick you up. But this thing's got some range on it, and you could end up somewhere you definitely don't want to be.
Yeah, in his announcement video, they definitely show somebody getting tossed over the wall. And he combines that pull and then throw. That's pretty wicked. It really makes people go quite a distance. That 1-2 punch there.
I think the most frightening thing about the ability is the level 7 augment Into the Fray. Activate to throw a nearby ally into the fray, granting them 25 armor for 3 seconds, dealing damage where they land, slowing upon impact. They are unstoppable in the air, so they can cross over things like Malfurion roots, any sort of terrain of that nature.
This is what Colossus does to Wolverine.
Yeah.
It's, it's pretty rad.
It appears to be on its own cooldown. It's an activatable, so maybe like Stitch's hook, the friendly one, it's kind of sitting there on its own. If it's still costing the 16-second cooldown and the mana, just like the friendly Stitch's hook, I don't think we're going to see a lot of troll plays.
Right. Yeah, right. The guy who's mouthing off, you just toss him into the heart of the swarm. That's a pretty rough way to deal with somebody on your team.
And it is a tempting thought, right? You have kind of a shy Arthas on your team. He's not making the engages you want, so you go, all right,
get in there.
There we go. Come on, man.
Amazing.
It's go time. But all the cute stuff like Nazebo misses his wall and you pick him up and throw somebody inside of it. You get an entomb and someone's not in there and you add them to the pile. Gazlo bombs, area effects. I mean, this is a really intense ability, and you can spec for a stun at 16 on it. It's under a second, but still.
Wow. Yeah. And maybe Ragnaros puts his little explosion on the person that you're throwing as well. Now you're like throwing a bomb into a group. That's a lot of fun combos.
And all massive push or any sort of, control ability like this that doesn't directly target something with point and click is usable on Diva. So now you have a Diva bomb next to you that you pick up and chuck into the enemy team.
Wow. That's crazy. So the Diva bomb starts going, everybody scatters, and your Garrosh just picks it up and throws it to where they ran to. Crazy.
I think it's going to be really cool. And I don't think, because of the cooldown, because of the cost, we're not going to feel a backlash of people trolling. There's those Leorics. We've all seen them who just die for some reason. I don't know if they're bots farming or whatnot. There are better characters to troll with.
Right.
Let's talk about his heroics.
Fascinating ones, especially that second one. My goodness.
Yeah, Warlord's Charge. They decided, taunt variant, how he has a single point and click, 1 second, 0.25 silence, lock on. Well, they went ahead and gave Garrosh an AoE version of it for a fourth of a second longer, 1.5 seconds.
Oh, man.
Now, they have made it clear that it is a silence, so any abilities that favor, give armor off Uther, or anything like that, this is a silence officially. Taunt was as well, but they've made it clear now.
Yeah, so this is AoE taunt. So all the times that you've been frustrated by Varian doing this to you, imagine your entire team getting this. We've decided to disengage from the fight. Nope. No, you're not. Crazy.
The weird part is it doesn't make them use their burst abilities unless they have something sort of augmenting their auto attack at the moment. So you would get the lesser forms of their attacks from Jaina's and Kael'thas's. They're not casting spells because you taunted them. They are doing a silenced auto attack. So it seems powerful. You do this at full health, great. You get knocked down, you get some armor along the way. You do this at low health, well, you have the armor for it. So it doesn't seem like it really has a hole.
Right.
But
yeah.
But having played Dota and knowing a character with this exact same ability, there's going to be a lot of dead Garroshes.
Oh, because you underestimate how much all those auto attacks hitting you at the same time will do.
Well, and let's exactly, and that's I feel like the big struggle right now is the tank environment. I don't want to be the tank right now, but they're picking 1v3 fights, and Garrosh is most certainly going to pick some 1v3 fights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure. The second heroic, the Decimate, a spammable heroic, sounds fascinating to me.
Yeah, 3 charges. Every time you hit a hero, you reduce the cooldown of it. Do a slow in an area. Do light damage, 50 damage at level 10. Slow for 30%, 1.5 seconds. Double damage to heroes, so you're looking at 100 damage. But every time you hit a hero, you give yourself a cooldown of this, giving more charge. It's a great Hearthstone reference for one. Just all the bloodied fury kind of feeling of it.
Right. It's awesome. And I think it's going to be a really fun way. I think he feels like a tank that's really going to be able to control a lot of the team. I mean, a lot of the other team. He's so many of his abilities seem to be about moving people around, slowing people down, causing chaos, and really controlling the movement of the enemy team. I think this one is the one that got me very, very excited. But even Warlord's Challenge, I think, will function that way too. Like, controlling who's attacking what and whether they get to leave or not.
And to move it back into sanity as you're doing here, he has no engage. We've talked about a way to make others engage, and certainly if you throw that Jaina poorly forward, but she gets off the Ring of Frost, and then you run in and do your Warlord's Challenge over everybody, that's going to be great, but you still have to walk all the way in to get that taunt off in the first place, and something like Decimate, with its area effect, at least in the video, could easily become the superior heroic.
Yeah, that's the one that caught my eye for sure, but he seems like I said, I don't feel like he's very flashy, but I think he's going to make an impact. Are you excited to play him?
I am. I'm not currently in the market for a tank, but he's got some really cool abilities. And in particular, they mentioned that Garrosh was coming with a new system. We all assumed that it was going to be something to do with armor. And he does have his unique armor trait. We're getting the new visual on the armor, seeing that number above the hero's head. But it looks like they've added a new mechanic, stacking talents. We don't have an official phrase for this, but the body check ability on Garrosh is a level 1 talent that then activates 2 other talents throughout the tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not kind of clear on how that works. I read through it, but it still doesn't. It's a little complicated.
So at level 1, you have all your talents, augment your abilities, whatnot. You have the choice to take an activatable for your 1 button that deals damage, slows by 30% for 3 seconds, and if you have armor, it deals that as bonus damage, which is a really cool flavor bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then at level 7, if you took that level 1 talent, there will be a level 7 talent available just to that person who took the level 1 talent in the first place.
Right, so this is like at level 20, you get either of the 2 heroic talents that you took at level 10, right? They only show up to you if you took that given heroic at level 10.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this happens, though, throughout the skill tree so that you are constantly sort of going down a more specific road of talents.
It is going to be what looks like the Bruiser build for him. It's a bit more damage. It's a lot more slow to the kit. But if you're looking to make a tank or rush, it's 100% available to you. Level 4, you got Indomitable, Unstoppable for 1.5 seconds. Intimidation at level 7, actually. 40% attack speed slow there in an AoE effect. But you also are up against something as cool as basic attacks against heroes reduce their spell power by 40%. And that's level 7, 2.5 seconds.
It's pretty long too.
Now they're going to give us an armor into visual, and now we're going to be like, well, we want to see our spell power percent, Blizzard.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how much of that. I hear you guys talk about that on the show a lot, and I agree it would be useful to know. But man, it's a real challenge to display that information in a way that doesn't muddy up the play field and doesn't overwhelm the player with information either. So that's going to be a challenge going forward, I think.
Yeah. It's easy to say after playing these games for 14 years that, well, the minimap's really complicated and there's a lot of information to glean from there. This might be even simpler. The things that interest me about these new heroes and the way they're moving around different talents is, something like a Nubarak. He has a talent like this, debilitation, 50% magic reduction to the enemies he hits with a burrow charge, but it's at level 16. So the games are shorter, so we don't really think about it much, but it's an interesting part to perhaps a future understanding of the puzzle that is Heroes of the Storm, to say, how interesting, let's take Garrosh into Li Ming instead of a Nubarak, because we're really concerned about Li Ming in the early game at level 7 in this one.
Yeah.
But here on this map, we don't really care about Li Ming till level 16, and we can take a Nubarak instead. To be fair, this is a pretty bad example because a Nubarak's just a great counter with beetles and spell armor.
Right. No, but I get what you're saying, and I think it's even more dense because it's buried so far in, it's buried in talent choices, whereas a Nubarak sort of it just is the spell power guy, and you could take Garrosh a different direction really.
And they're not really sure still what they want to do with the Nubarak. It's the same silence problem as something like Alarak. They want it to be an anti-spellcaster, and then they realize, oh, everybody likes casting spells. We've made something really good here.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting to follow up Stukov with Garrosh, because I feel like Stukov was just such a whiz bang wow. Look at all this craziness that you get to do. You got this giant arm pool thing. You can push someone all the way across the friggin' map. It just felt like you're throwing dots everywhere. It just felt so flashy and over the top. And then to follow it up with Garrosh, who's just sort of like, working man, just making some armor over here. I know that there's tossing people around, but he just feels so blue collar in comparison.
Yeah, he's got to walk everywhere, uphill both ways, hitting things with an axe. Nothing special there.
Right.
Did you get into... I mean, you said you haven't played much of Stukov, but as a Brightwing player, it's that mid-range kind of healer like Morales, and I was just curious if he clicked with you.
I haven't played him. I really haven't. I mean, I just played a few games of just try mode. I haven't even picked him up as a character yet, but I'm sure I'll get around to him because I'm really excited by the character. I think I just like the look and feel of him, and so much of what he's doing seems really fun. I'll get around to him. I just haven't done so yet.
He's a fascinating picture of what I think Blizzard wants supports to look like, which are these aggressive, timing-based, high-impact heroes.
And I think that's a great place for them to sit. I really like that idea. I think it's a fun idea to think that they're all kind of like Malfurion with his giant AoE silence. Like, they're back in the background, but get them in the middle and have them do something crazy. Make them feel like big, high-impact characters. I love that avenue for the healer because it's in contrast to basically what the healer is in World of Warcraft. And I'm glad this game is embracing, mix it up. This is a brawler. This is not just a MOBA. It really is a brawler, and let those characters get in the mix once in a while.
Yeah. And Brightwing can hit like a truck, particularly that Emerald Wind.
Yeah. I mean, and back in the day, many, many moons ago, when I first was getting into Brightwing, I would play a full-on damage build for her. I would take Envenom. And I would be a killer, man. I'd have the speed. I'd throw the pixie dust on myself and just hunt people down and throw all these damage things on them. And It was fun, it was fun, and she still is capable of bringing the pain, and I like that. I like the fact that these support characters can behave in that way and have an impact on team fights beyond just sort of saving everybody's butt.
Were you personally disappointed by Garrosh, or you good to go?
I think he's going to be fascinating. Like I said, I got a little disappointed just of how like he really he really doesn't feel exciting. He feels very like get in the trenches and working man, which is good, but maybe and maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll see a bunch of these crazy flippity doos that people do that make me go, oh, I gotta try that. But right now, his debut video, I was all excited because it's a character from the lore that I'm into, and it just felt like he smacks people with his axe, and it's hard to kill him. It's like, oh yeah, okay, all right, I get it.
Yeah, and different strokes, right? Because then people said the same thing. He's Green Rainer, Zul'jin's boring as heck, and I'm like, yeah, throw them axes.
Right.
Well, we also got a balance update, a rather sizable one. We're going to start with the pro scene nerfs, which is always a bit of an interesting conversation. These would be two heroes that were touched up, not because us at home are winning too much. Genji, in fact, being the 7th lowest win rate hero on Hotslog, so for Hero League, according to the statistics we have. But seeing a sizable nerf.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Genji on the pro scene is insta pick or insta ban, right? So this is targeting that health reduction, health regen reduction. It's all about survivability, right?
Yep, and they also added some mana problems in for him, which I think are interesting. It's always a shame to be like, well, balance this by making them boring. I think Genji's might need to slow down a little bit and smell the roses here and there. They're a little high-strung and fast. But this now moves Genji's break-even point with mana from level 9 to level 22.
Oh, wow.
So basically, if Genji's out on the field throwing shurikens over and over and over again, at level 9, he was doing that for free.
Wow.
So now there will be, at some point, where Genji will run out of mana. And he did anyway because he was also using deflects and dashes and things of that nature. But now Dragon Blade 2 got its mana cost increased by 25. Well, if you wrongfully use 5 shurikens now, you now don't have the mana for the Dragon Blade. But one of the big pro sort of impacts here is that they took his cooldown on Dragon Blade from 80 seconds to 100 seconds. Doesn't really matter for us at home. I doubt most Genjis are actually picking fights that effective at every 80 seconds. But in the pro scene, if you're up against heroes with 100-second cooldowns, you're abusing that 20-second gap.
Right.
Malthael being the big one.
Right. Yeah, makes sense to me.
Also moved his dodge charges down from 3 to 1, which I'm excited about. Auto attackers, you don't have to aim your spells to hit. So I think auto attackers are a great counter to high mobility heroes, and I'm happy to see this.
Yeah, but the cooldown was reduced as well.
Right, so he will have it more often, but you're not going to have to work through 3 charges if it's the first time you've seen Genji in a bit.
Yeah.
The Uther one is a minor poke in the right direction. But I'm curious, in Silver, are you seeing Uthers?
Yeah, I am. He's come back into vogue in a big way. People are digging on. And I think that's a lot of the, just trickle down from the pro scene because Uther seems fun. But, and people like stunning people. Stuns are fun. But I don't think that people use them in the same way the pros do, obviously. I mean, I don't think, Guardian of Ancient Kings is owning the day in Silver.
Right. Well, we'll have to. I'm so curious to see what happens to Uther when everybody suddenly sees 50 armor on people on the other side if they change their tactic.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing about Uther to me right now is he's grown in popularity, but they're new to him, and the point and click stun is a huge asset, but you use it at the wrong time, and I'm able to activate my dingo now. So I'm seeing a lot of holes for Uthers to fill out.
Yeah, that's interesting.
He got his healing reduced for his point and click heal on Holy Light, both to himself and the heroes he's hitting, by 20. And Holy Radiance had its mana cost increased, which isn't a huge nerf to us at home again. It's 10 extra mana. You're probably still going to do your talent that gives you some mana back. But in the pro scene, where they're actually hitting maximum heroes, this now means you leave that scenario with a deficit.
It's so interesting to me. I find these kinds of nerfs to be some of the most fascinating ones because they're tiny little dial moves. And I always imagine the massive spreadsheet that the Blizz devs are looking at. You know, Team One's got this like insane, like if we just tweak this, it has this ripple effect all the way through here. And let's, it's so interesting to have those tiny tweaks.
And it's always fascinating to think about the state of a game when they have to balance something for the 1% of people who are playing competitively.
Yeah. Yeah, and not have that ruin the experience for the other 99%.
Right, so look at something like Lili's trait. If you get hit by a wayward bullet, you move a bit faster. Cool, that helps us out a lot at home. In lower leagues too, where auto attacks will accidentally hit her and then you'll go, oh, right, I want to focus the right guy, and they'll be moved back into position. But in something like the pro scene, block, a talent that I just think is about the most boring thing on earth, is huge because you just need to survive the opening onslaught of damage. And someone like Lily with an ability that activates upon taking damage is just dead.
Right. So interesting.
We talked a little bit about Zool and how you were seeing him everywhere. Has this changed anything? Have you gotten to play since this update? It was just yesterday.
I played a bunch of games today. I saw 2 Zools in about 5 games that I played today. So, yeah, I mean, he's still rocking.
He's doing well, and this is mostly just an encouragement of his Curse Strike talents. I still think the range on the Scythe just passively is incredible, and the Scythe build ends up giving itself to a bit more damage in really chaotic means. But they also went through and nerfed Backlash, which is really funny. A talent that sat at 15% hero's maximum health damage upon breaking of his shield since his release. But now is apparently too powerful.
Interesting. Yeah. You were playing Zool for a while when he got his big rework. Have you moved off of him?
He's a bit too popular at the moment. And then there's the Asmodans, and it's tough to justify both, but I'm kind of wondering if I shouldn't worry about that. I've got this thing. I played a lot of Asmodan when he first came out. Back in the day, the boss slam didn't do nearly as much damage, so you could rain of demons on top of a boss and take a boss by yourself on Asmodan. It was incredible. Basically, since they made that change, I said, he's not fun anymore. In quick match, I'm leaving. But I play so much quick match Asmodan that when I get him, I think, oh, there's no tank on my side. I've got this huge health pool. I'm a big guy. Why don't I do a laser build and I'll tank a little bit for the team? And I do expect that of my Asmodans a little bit to kind of get in there, just take a few hits, and they're just miles away. In some lane saying, here you go, one orb. And I just want them in the business. So maybe there actually is room for Zool and Asmodan on the same team.
Interesting.
Zool does a bit more melee, a real kind of bruiser role. You got that window of shielding that can really help you get in deep and get out those curse strikes. Then you can back it up with some scythes, wait for your cooldowns, re-engage, recover with spawning some skeletons that hit things now. He's a really cool off-tank, a lot like Thrall. You just got to make sure you don't overfill that role.
Interesting.
Stukov got a pretty big knockaround, mostly to his lurked arm build. The big thing here being that they went through and added Growing Infestation now has an additional 4 seconds on its cooldown. And the sad thing about this, to those Stukovs running this build, you would do a style. You would put out your Healing Pathogen. That would start clicking away. You'd then head over and throw out your Weighted Pustule, and then go into a Lurking Arm until those 2 spells had come on cooldown. Well, then when you cancel your Lurking Arm, you start the normal 8-second cooldown. Well, now it's a 12-second cooldown, and you're completely off rotation. You're not coming out of that with the Healing Pathogen, the Weighted Pustule ready to go, and then another Lurking Arm to follow it.
Right. And that's by design. That's what they want now.
Right. It's a rhythm destroyer for this particular build. And it's a really sad way to create a nerf, but the character's so new that I can't be that upset about it. It was the perhaps easiest way to play, and now we're rewarding other play styles.
Yeah. I was surprised to see the pushback distance of Flailing Swipe increased so dramatically.
Yeah, 50% on that guy is what they ended
Wow.
up doing. This actually is an interesting little math problem here. What they've done is they've increased it just sort of by pressing a button saying, hey, 50%. It's Stukov's fixed out into the world, but he hits now in meters. It's odd to think of this game in actual like yards and feet, but they measure it in meters. And the first hit hits to 8 or to 5, knocking them back 5 meters. Or at 5 meters with a 3.5 pushback. Well, they are now sitting on 8.5. The second swipe goes at 8. So actually the second swipe doesn't hit at all right now.
Oh yeah.
But then they're in range.
Unless you're walking forward.
Right, like you would into a level 20 Brightwing, and if you're doing that, you're taking like 900 damage. Go away, get out of there.
Yeah.
So maybe people are trying to re-engage in this. The 11-meter final hit is absolutely hitting. The great thing they did now is they went through and made level 20 push comes to shove, or controlled chaos, an actual buff. Before, if you took the level 20 augment to your level 10, you actually ruin the ability in some ways.
I feel like the only ult that I see people take is Flailing Swipe, though.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the what's the other one called? Put the big push one.
Massive shove, yeah.
Yeah, I have not seen that in my games. Everybody's taking Flailing Swipe. I don't know if that's a league thing.
Yeah, that gives me a lot of sanity in that I can predict leagues, but I'm sad to hear it. Because it makes sense. It's the panic button. It's right. Huge. It says, I don't want to be here. And just
yeah, here they come. We got to get away. Yeah.
But Massive Shove it's a cocoon. It gets rid of a whole hero.
Yeah. And it certainly takes more skill to do. And it isn't, as you said, it isn't the OS button. But yeah, I thought that was the much more fun looking talent when it was announced. But I'm surprised because I've almost never seen it.
That's interesting. And it's not easy. I mean, if you mess up the rhythm, just like the lurking arm there we talked about, you should be getting out your heal first, weighted pustule, but very quickly going into a massive shove to make that 4v5 scenario. And then you're going to go right into a lurking arm while everything else is on cooldown again. And then wait, and hopefully that was in a good location. You're not dying, but you get 50 armor when you're using the shove, so you use it really early to make sure you have that armor for the onset of the fight as the Kael'thas bombs go underneath you and Dahaka comes buzzing in. In that way, it seems really easy to use in my head, and I love the aggressive design of Stukov, but I totally understand the panic buttons.
Right, yeah.
They also went through... Oh, go for it.
No, I was just going to say that, stuff, ults that work that way. I think a lot of people in my leagues use Emerald Wind as a panic button, and don't kind of see the offensive capabilities of it as well.
One of the things I really like that they did is, talking about power spikes here, they went through level 4 and made it a choice. Now, Vigorous Reuptake, this was your quest that gave you those huge ancestral healing numbers that you loved, is now down to 40%. And the one good spread only has to go to 3 heroes instead of 4 to get you that mana refunded. This now means that at level 4, you are choosing if you want more healing for your team at level 4, or are you saying, no, this is a level 16 game, I can afford to wait all that time until Vigorous Reuptake is available?
That's interesting. I think that Vigorous Reuptake is the sexier one, but again, yeah, you have to, it's more delayed gratification.
Right, so I could say something along the lines of, so that would not be your Hanamura pick because those games are too short, but now we're hearing that people aren't ending Hanamuras.
Oh, that's weird.
They're torturing each other.
I haven't seen that happen yet, but it's ridiculous.
I'm happy you haven't experienced it. That'd be too much, man.
Yeah, that would be too much. You're right.
There was a pretty substantial nerf, though, to level 16 Pox Populi. Just a nerf, going from bonus healing of 240 down to 160. The other talents here are now looking a bit better. Some minor dungeons as well. Greymane, Curse Bullet, damage reduced. This is a pure hit. His ultimate. Damage reduced from 40% of a hero's maximum health to 35%.
That feels like a high-end nerf as well, sort of a competitive scene nerf.
Yeah, this is a really interesting ability, and I think in its base, it's unfun.
What do you mean by that?
On the receiving end, I'm a tank, and I just lost 40, now 35% of my health. What a bummer. I didn't do anything to deserve this. Because the bullet's too fast in that way.
Right.
There's no chance to dodge. With the fall stat, going whoop, 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 with better sound effects than that, and then blast! It's like, oh, I messed up. I should have dodged. I'm not good enough. But when you get hit by that bullet in melee range, it just feels like a bummer.
What about pyro, though? I mean, I feel like Kael'thas's pyro is that way. It's like, I can't, here it comes. I can't really do. I mean, I guess there are ways to mitigate it if you know, your healer is on top of it, but it feels a little similar to me of like, I didn't do anything wrong. I just stood there.
Yeah, I feel what you mean there, because if you make KT mess up, that's his mistake, that he put it on the tracer in the first place, and you're amazing for being aware of how recall can get you out of that situation. But just feeling it coming, it may for me, I'm just like, at least it's not Phoenix, and I don't have to deal with that for the whole game. It's okay, you can sacrifice me in this one moment. But on the other side of it too, like, is KT having fun? Is Greymane feeling like he's rewarded for hitting this, or is it just something that you should have hit in the first place? And if you miss, you're bad for 30 seconds.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that I've had that problem with Pyro for a long time. I never take that talent. I don't like it very much. I don't think there's anything fun about point and clicking. The only decision process is not targeting the stupid hero to target with that ability. Target the correct hero to target, and you've done your entire job. And then you can walk away and wait till you hear the sound of them dead. And that's not really fun. And I kind of feel like that you're right here that Cursed Bullet falls in that category too. It's like, I pushed a thing and it did a thing, and there's no other part to it.
Well, and game knowledge is probably the toughest thing to gather. I mean, this week I died because I wasn't aware that a Stitch's friendly hook reduces the cooldown of all hooks by 50%. So I saw a friendly hook. I said, great, 16 seconds without. And I stood in the wide open, proud of my game knowledge, and received in 8 seconds a hook that killed me.
Oops.
So it's always an interesting thing there. Tychus received a little bump to his fully loaded. This is the flat cooldown reduction to his minigun. He's seen an increase in play because of this, a slight increase in win rate by about 0.5. Murden got a little bit of a Nubarak bump here, giving him some bonus health and health regen.
Surprised by that, because I feel like Murden kind of came back down to earth a little bit. He'd been in a place of being the tank for so long. I'm surprised that they feel the need to buff him at all.
His win rate is not good in most leagues. He has amazing survivability. He does what he does so well. If I were to say what it is, I think it's just that it's too seductive to hit people and pick those 1v3s. Now he's going to be able to get out a little bit more. The main reason Murden went from king of all tanks to down in the doldrums, he lost unstoppable on his leap.
Right. Yeah, you can't leap away and not get yanked back down from, a Malfurion roots or anything. Yep. Which I've had to happen a couple of times because I spent so much time playing Murden. I was like, ha, here I go. Whoop, my foot's caught. Yeah, I think the most disappointing one, and that very much my foot's caught in the tree and up goes the Looney Tunes trap, is Johanna you're trying to run from. And that Condemn goes and you're like, I got no, coming right on back. Yeah.
Rexar had his flare buffed, cooldown reduced to 20 seconds. So now the duration of the flare equals the cooldown of the flare.
That's cool.
Rexar's just, he's too much work. And you don't get the damage numbers that make people happy.
Right. But he's still fun on whatchamacallit, the map. My brain's not working. It's what happens when you have a little baby. Your brain stops working because of no sleep. Any point control map. I love having him on point control maps.
And actually, his highest win rate map by quite a bit right now is Tomb of the Spider Queen. And particularly when you look at higher leagues, you do a double soak on Tomb of the Spider Queen between the top and the middle, back and forth. And Nazebo's getting stacks, or you're doing something that's pretty cute, gonna create skeletons. then you have a coin bank. And I have no idea of all the things that permeate Hero League and the weird middle fights we have to pick and oversight. This odd gem of sanity has arisen that people take coin banks now on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Nazebo does the clear, gets his stacks, but there's a Johanna actually picking up the coins. So when they attack, Nazebo's dead, but you don't lose anything because Johanna's holding all the goods. So
I wish my teams did that.
I got it right, a league thing for sure. But Rexar is really, really good at that because Misha holds nothing. It all channels back to Rexar.
You can send her out and grab them, and Rexar holds them.
Exactly, and if she suicides getting those things, they still make their way back.
Right, that's cool.
Stitch has got a little bit not too. This doesn't seem as obvious for maybe a pro change as well as a just everybody change. 1 point of damage off Vile Gas's trait when you hit him, and then Heavy Slam getting its damage bonus reduced to 40% from 50% at level 1. So a little knock to the Slam build, which is perhaps the easiest build, so good adjustment.
Yeah, I think he was doing a little bit too much damage, but I certainly love playing Stitches. I've been playing a lot of him in unranked just for fun because he's a blast, man. It's just so fun. His recent change to Gore where you can grab multiple people at 20. I love it. I love it. It's so fun.
Oh, I lost to that this week. It was a Towers of Doom, and it came down to a boss battle. We were doing well, but then Stitch's whole team
just ate everyone.
Oh.
Yeah, I love doing that. It's my favorite. Oh, it's so great.
It made me feel like viable on Towers of Doom. Like just that for that one scenario, it's gonna come up again.
Yeah,
and Stitches will win the day.
Dig it. I had a Towers of Doom game, a ranked game. Where my team inexplicably we were ahead 21-1. Those were the tower the base health at a certain point. We had 21 health on our base. Enemy team had 1. And for some reason, our team decided that they didn't want to play anymore. We ended up winning the game with 2 health on our tower.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But it was like, I don't understand what everybody's doing. Our Dahaka decided to go off and do his own thing up in a lane and didn't report to anything. They were like, just assumed we'd won, I guess, and decided they wanted to not play anymore. It was the strangest thing. I was like, if we lose this match, I'm going to be so mad. But anyway.
It's gotta be that level 11 problem. Because you can be stuck at 8 while that enemy team is 11, and they're just gods on the field. There's nothing you can do. And then you get your 10 and you get a pick and they still think they're invincible gods 3 levels up, but you start sneaking back and all of a sudden come level 16, you're dead even. Everyone's going, we need to shape up.
Yeah. We got a little complacent. And that's the beauty of this game. I mean, you're never out of it completely, but my God, they should have been out of it completely.
I think in general, the better team wins most of the time. The team that, regardless of the comeback mechanic, the blue shells that may be available in Heroes of the Storm, the practice, particularly in a solo queue environment, that team got in all those executions leading up to a victory means they were the right ones to get it.
I tend to agree. I would throw psychology into the mix a little more, maybe, especially down in my league. I think the team that keeps their S together better is usually the team that wins, and at least that's been my experience.
Really fascinating little Day 9 video posted this morning over on the Heroes subreddit talking about toxicity. And I think it really hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of people defend their own a little strong, and nobody wants to throw the first stone, but once stones are throwing, it's too enjoyable. It's too tempting to join in. And the right thing to do is always just, my bad. And, he said, why didn't you take this talent? My bad, let's win.
Yeah. I really appreciated what you guys have said a couple of times recently about, especially when you're first learning the game, to be able to do 2 opposite things at the same time in your brain. One is ignore the haters, and the other is listen to the haters a little bit. There's sometimes, and I think back to when I was first learning this game, because this was really the first MOBA I ever took seriously, and I remember several times a guy freaking out and going, "Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?" And me going, all these people are just being a-holes. And then in retrospect going, why was I doing that? That's not the right move. And this guy knew that wasn't the right move. His communication skills about it failed him. But when one is in that situation and assumes everybody should have the same information and same judgment that you have based on, disparate levels of play, it can be frustrating. And what if you can hear, my dad used to say, listen to what I mean, not what I say. And if you can listen to what they mean, not what they say, I think you can actually glean some positive information from trolls sometimes.
Right. It's the feeling that you should never practice alone because all you do is ingrain bad habits or for me, it was, growing up memorizing my lines. I'm dyslexic. So if I memorized my theater lines that I was going to stay on stage alone, I misread them. And then I memorized them wrong and I was completely screwed.
Right. Yeah. You've now ingrained those bad habits. Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's a long road, and I'm not sitting on some sort of high horse here. I was 15 when I started playing these games, and I was part of the problem. And I learned through experience, not fancy articles or videos or a podcast, that it's best to just say my bad.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm guilty of it. I get salty. When something seems so painfully obvious to me, like we're all one place and you're another place. Why are you not where we all are right now? Because what you're doing is completely nonsensical. I will rail against somebody and be like, just show up, or whatever it is. And and you're right. It's not helpful. It's always better to talk about what we can do in the next engage.
And I feel for him too, because we get home at the end of the day and you just can't wait to play, and someone messes with your time. It's strange to me when it's based on hero specific. Like, how could you dare let Genji into this game? He wasn't banned. How could you? This was yesterday, no less, after he received his nerfs. And I'm thinking about this, 47% win rate in my head, only good in the pro scene kind of thing at the moment. And it's just so simple. You just don't hit him. He actually says, come on. He literally taunts you to hit him. All you got to do is stun him to break that. It seems so simple in my head. There's no reason to be tilted on this hero because we cause our own problems here. It's the same thing I had with Malthael. And I think the same thing we'll have with Garrosh. There's no need to call these things OP because the answer is simple. Like Kerrigan, sidestep. In this case, don't let Malthael ever touch you. If you took a melee hero into him, well, that's the first mistake. And here with Garrosh, it'll be really rough to get thrown over that wall or displaced. But did you mess up by letting him touch you in the first place?
Yeah. Look in the mirror. I had a game this week where a guy got so mad at the team that we were on Garden of Terror, and he decided to get the terror and just stay in the base the whole time. Just got the terror twice and just sat in the base to punish us because he was so upset.
Oh, see, that's where I draw the line. I'm extremely forgiving. Like, I had a guy this week who was some dude was like, dude is a terrible Vala. Don't let him pick Vala. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm taking Raynor. Well, you know what? I didn't report that guy because he got in and he busted his butt. And I was Azariel and we did it. And there was a troll Chen pick in there too. And nobody gave up. And you can say whatever you want in my game and I will not report you. And that may be my fault. But the second you give up, that's the cue. That's the report button.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Speaking of Chen, who is getting picked quite a bit now because of his little knock upwards, I always think of the League of Legends situation where they misprinted a buff, never actually gave the character the buff. Everyone played that character, spammed him all weekend, thinking he was OP now. And people were complaining on forums. It ended up being a typo. Nothing changed. So now Chen is seeing a higher popularity, but he did get a buff of sorts. His brew now gives you brew up front. Less brew over time. You still complete in the same amount of time, but you now get that 25 brew instantly upon activation, which is going to help him to recover, get that next kick in, that next body block, and keep on going.
That's pretty cool. What you just said about League and the misprint, though, it's the placebo talent. You take the placebo talent; it's amazing.
Well, you didn't know about this thing?
It's it's OP, man.
It's OP, man. It's tough to take that phrase seriously. There are some.
I don't play Chen at all, and I don't see him played at all. And I wonder if this is so recent. I wonder if this is going to have an effect in my league. Seeing Chen's, I feel like Chen is one of those heroes that very few people have specialized in down in silver.
There is a hole that Chen 100% fits in. And it's the same thing that ideally Tracers, Illidan's, Malthael's would be ideally picked for. You notice on the enemy side that there is no CC to stop your drinking. And so you're just going to faceplant into those walls. You'll waste every bit of ammo they have. Not a lick of damage to you. Gonna jump in the team fight? Nobody stops you. Not a lick of damage to you. But people get excited. They become mains. And can't fault them. I've got my own mains too. And some of them are kind of odd, but he does have a draft place. It just comes up very rarely, and the enemy team is making a pretty large mistake by taking no CC in the first place.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing too, and it may be hard to pull off, but if you ever notice the enemy team has 0 poke, you can do a supportless game and win it really easily.
With Chen?
With any hero. This is a beside.
Just a general.
Yeah, if you notice that like people love to tilt and that they didn't get any support, but you can find a moment of sanity in your heads if you just look at your team and say they have no way to even damage us before the fight starts, and they'll be back there cowering around the curse while we're just lobbing orbs into them.
That's really fascinating. And I have just anecdotally noticed that if you are playing against a supportless team and you start losing early, nothing tilts your team harder than feeling like we should be winning and we're not. And then it's over. And then the supportless team just trounces because your team has completely lost its spine.
Yeah, and it's the expense. You know, healers are a cut in damage too, but you just can't close on something that packed full of numbers.
Right. Yeah.
Hope that gives someone some sanity out there in a misdraft this week.
Yeah.
Devs have been all over the forums recently. This is pretty cool. Not only taking to Reddit now, actually community managers seem to be managing the Reddit. Devs themselves speaking up on the official forums. They're saying Samuro could be better. And it's kind of scary to hear what they have to say. First off, his talents have a lot of issues. Goes on to say, too much synergy, particularly on the AA talents. E-build is weak and underperforming, but kind of odd because he doesn't do spell damage or anything else but auto attack. So, of course, you take nothing but those talents. Then they go on to say he has a variety of minor bugs and control issues, particularly with Illusion Master, that need ironing out pretty bad.
That's mighty transparent of them.
It is, and you say it like that, and you're like, yeah, it kind of like the Hanamura situation. Too much, maybe?
Yeah.
Ruins the illusion, the father figure illusion.
Right, yeah. You guys are supposed to be perfect.
Do you still see Samuro? He ebbs and flows in the win rates based on AoE, really.
I think people love him. I think he's the Nova player that gets a lot of trash for playing Nova and now can play Samuro and nobody gets mad. You know what I mean? It's that player.
Yeah, he's fun though. Very damaging.
Yeah, he's great and he's cool. He can control a battlefield in some really interesting ways. You can use him to merc out, and there's definitely a good place for him, and a good player can have a big impact with Samuro. So I don't play him. I mean, I have a little bit, but I don't feel super comfortable with him. But when a good Samuro is on my team, I'm really happy.
He's got that same Malthael problem where opening week, you're spinning all over everybody with Bladestorm. They're just running for the hills. They don't know what to do. OP hero, oh my god. And then with time, everyone goes, oh, turn and kill him. He's right there. It's not like he's immune to anything.
Yeah.
If you want to get into Illusion Master, you gotta make boxes. And no other character but Samuro at 10 and Lost Vikings is going to have anything close to this. But if you hold down that left mouse button and you drag, you're going to make tiny boxes. And that's the correct way to play. They introduce you to this 1, 2, 3, 4 system like you're going to use it. The madness. Maybe if you're moving Lost Vikings up and down and trying to control different lanes. But when you got them all together, or Samuros, you should be doing drag boxes to control them individually.
Like StarCraft.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you got to get those Zerglings away from the roaches and back up your Hydras, and each little unit has its role to play.
Yeah.
Diva's slated to get some talent diversity, but no time soon. They said they were perhaps a little heavy-handed, and of course, when they fixed the bug that got rid of her defense matrix getting rid of any percent-based damage, she has fallen down dramatically. They also went on to say Brightwing, in fact, is in a healthy spot. They're really happy with how the spell armor change went for her. The shield build will not be coming back ever. They found it problematic. But they did end it with, in particular, I want to ask you this, Jeff, because you love Brightwing. They want ways for good Brightwings to differentiate themselves from great Brightwings, and ask the community what could be done there. And perhaps they're saying, like with Stukov, and reworking these heroes like Ariel to be more aggressive supports, that maybe they can find that in the Q talents.
That's interesting. The Q talent for Brightwing, her bomb.
Basically Arcane Flare. Nobody's taking any talents there. They are aware that those are completely unperforming, and giving supports more damage options is always a way to get them back in.
I gotta say, I may be foolish here, but there are quite a few times where I will take increased range on Arcane Flare at 4, I guess. I think that's a 4. I really dig that range increase, because I love leading people with the Arcane Flare, and to be able to do that at a higher range, I dig that, and I can do some decent damage numbers with her, and I like getting in the mix with Brightwing, and I really like. I'm a big fan of taking Blink Heal, which gives me an out, so I can sort of mix it up and jump in and jump out and use my heal as a movement tool as well as a healing tool.
Are there any rules you kind of develop for your Brightwing as to who you like to heal? Any heroes you just think don't mix with her?
Boy, that's a great question. I guess I haven't gotten that granular with it. I mean, heroes that need big burst heals, of course, are problematic. I like to hang out with. I like hanging out with Avala. I like hanging out with some mages in the back line, and making sure they're topped off, and then moving forward and doing some stuff. And if anybody gets in the back line, polymorphing them. So I hang out with the DPS in the back line a lot. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's an interesting. I guess I haven't gotten as granular with it as I should.
It's nice to, just like our maps. The more preferences you have, the more you can really eke out those. And all they are is 1%. You're taking that 50% coin flip, and you're adding 1% more onto it by saying, I don't like Brightwing with Raynor. That's a fine comment. I love Brightwing Zul'jin. I hate people who are going to overheal me a little bit, but that's all personal preference. I mean, Brightwing is one of those heroes that when people ask, how can I escape from certain leagues? I think she just has so many abilities. Bribe is amazing.
Yeah.
But you have to understand how Merc camps should work and the timings that they should be taken at, perhaps.
Yeah, I love taking Bribe with her, even on other maps than Hanamura. I just love having that ability to be like, I got this, guys, and I'll be right back. I love Brightwing. I have always loved Brightwing. I play a lot of her, and I agree with you, and I think she can be really powerful. I think polymorph is such a potent ability, and if you have a team that recognizes what you're doing, I mean, you can use it as a protective talent as well as an offensive talent, and I love that about it. And I have a blast with her.
One of the things that was brought up by the community in this post was that one of the things that could be done to make Brightwings greater among their fellow Brightwings is to increase the range of pixie dust. And at first you're saying, well, that's just a buff. We don't want to. But that increases the decision-making process. The longer range an ability has, the more opportunity it has to do something cool. And if you can reach out to bring those people back into your range, Vala
Yeah.
steps out, she needs movement speed to get back in for your heal. That can really be a way to master Brightwing, and I think that's a great idea.
That is really interesting. I think having that recent update where you saw we get a visual of her puff range right away. I think that's a huge improvement, and it's actually one of the biggest reasons I've been enjoying taking the bribe talent is because I can always know when I'm generating stacks because I know exactly that I've puffed enough people and I'm puffing people right now and everybody's in my range. It's so nice to have that indicator. I think that's been a huge positive for my play as well.
Yeah, it's nice to see those going on to multiple heroes as well.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the more bizarre bits of news I've ever reported on in my esports career. Twitch Cheer for the HGC. The technology is here. The future is now. And
how many pieces of flair do you have? How many pieces of cheer?
Twitch culture is something special. And the augments they've made to their system to allow for the financial capabilities of it are amazing. The growth, the partnership now with Twitch has me very curious about the future and what Blizzard's bringing to us. For the HGC Western Clash and Eastern Clash, that's starting on August 4th for the Western and August 11th for the Eastern, they will be allowing custom cheer emotes based on the team you would like to cheer in. So normally you would go to a Twitch channel and you would purchase gems of a sort that you would like to gift and donate to somebody, and they're interactive. They're going to show up in the chat. They're going to blink, and everyone's excited. They're a lot of fun. The streamer has fun because they're getting some funds for their project. The chat's having fun because now there's all sorts of fun graphics playing. When you go to the Blizz Heroes Twitch channel, starting with the Western Clash, there will be a special Nexus button, completely separate from all your little emoji buttons down there. And when you click it, you'll have the opportunity to select which team you would like to donate your bits to. And a portion of that proceed goes to the team itself, who you give the bits to.
Pretty interesting. I think this is the future of streaming media, and it's only going to get crazier from here. I did an event. Amazon hired me to host an event for them at GDC last year, and they are building their own. The Lumberyard is the name of their game engine, and it's integrating with Twitch in really deep ways. And this is all of this is going to get more and more robust, where the viewer is going to have more functionality and more options in the viewing going forward. You're going to have so much control over how you give money, what your visual is going to look like, what you get to see. It's not going to be so dictated by the streamer or the game. It's going to be dictated by you. And I think that's going to make for a much more interesting viewing experience. And I think that people that look at esports and say, hey, let's make it more and more like watching the NFL or MLB or NBA, miss the point that this can be even more interesting and more its own thing because of the interactivity of the medium.
Yeah, and this has the potential to be insane. I remember I was at Knott's Berry Farms. They had a water ride. One of those spinny ones, the rapids. And there was a bridge full of machines. And people were looking at the people moving under them, and by putting quarters into different machines, you could set a water bomb to go off, the waterfall to turn on the people going underneath the bridge, or just a cannon to just shoot water in all their faces. And people were just slamming quarters into these.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want the future where I get splashed every time someone donates on Twitch, but these things 100% work, and they're going further too. They're saying that not only is Blizzard getting a portion of the money, the exact money is a half a cent for every bit you donate to the team, but they're also going to add all these up, and whichever team has the most bits gets their prize in game. And if you've donated to that team and they end up being the top, you get loot boxes, you get exclusive mounts, emotes, content in the game.
Yeah, it's the future, and it's happening. I think it's kind of cool. I worry that we're going to go too far down that road, and it's just going to be a mess. But we're not there yet, and I think it's neat.
When you compare this to two very different things that Blizzard's doing with the Overwatch League, which is about as NFL as you can get,
Right.
and then something like the StarCraft War Chest, which is basically their version of Valve saying, give us your money, but they've given you a pamphlet on how exactly it's being spent instead of the madness that is the International.
Right.
It's interesting that Cheer was the one for Heroes.
Yeah, I wonder how that decision was made, because it feels like you're right. There are 3 major esports franchises here, each with 3 very different strategies on how to go about it.
And the War Chest has its own sort of quirks to it. You buy it, and then you play the video game inside. The money goes straight into the prize pool, up to a maximum of $200,000. The rest of that goes to Blizzard itself. And as you play the video game, you unlock more things that pop out of your war chest when it's all over. The Overwatch League has nothing for you at home, except for they are looking to gear up to be a full-blown professional scene, mandating, no less, that teams are providing $50,000 per year. Bonuses have to be a part of the 50% of the team's performance. They have to have a retirement plan, health insurance, and a place to stay.
Yeah, man. It's I wonder what the retirement plans are like for the 26-year-olds that retire.
Right? Yeah, really put it away over your 3 years in esports.
But I think it's cool, and I particularly am enamored with this idea that Overwatch League is doing of tying teams to localities around the country and the world. I think that is a huge. I mean, it's what you see in professional sports all over the place, obviously. I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan. There's the LA Rams. There's the idea of getting me a connection point beyond the game I play, because I don't – what's MVP Black or Cloud9? Or I have no connection to that until I get into the scene already. But if I'm just, becoming interested in the scene, I know where I live or what cities I used to live in that I like. I have a connection point, and I think that is a really powerful way to make these things more interesting right off the bat.
Do you feel like there is a kind of magic show disconnect when people get a controller in their hand, and Overwatch allows its audience to be more casual, maybe?
You mean in comparison to Heroes?
Yeah, like you finish your day job, your data entry, you clicked at the computer all day, you go home, and computer's where work is done, and you sit down to play some Heroes, and it feels perhaps a little too much like work. But maybe you get that controller in your hand, you turn on your Xbox, it's so different from everything else you've done throughout your day, and you don't need to interact. You just need the video game, you just need the NFL on TV.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I've definitely had this running theory on the shows that I've done for a long time now. The difference between sitting back entertainment and sitting forward entertainment. And I think, a console in your living room with a couch and a controller is, reclining. You're sitting back and being entertained, and playing a MOBA in front of your PC hunkered over a mouse and a keyboard is sitting forward entertainment. And I think those are very different kinds of interactions that you are engaging in, and it's a different level of commitment in your brain. And I think that you may be right that there's a little bit more a casual feel to just blasting some stuff in an Overwatch game for a while, even if the esports people are not behaving that way. They're much more serious.
Right, and we're not calling any game casual here. And I do wonder if by nature of having an iPad or a phone or something, and you lay down on your couch and start watching Heroes of the Storm, that fulfills that need for you. And maybe you're more frustrated at the end of the day when you play than at your computer again. It's interesting.
It is.
Well, before we go, let's go ahead and thank our patrons over at patreon.com/ITN. I, of course, today want to thank our fantastic producers, Declan H., Cheesy Bob, and Mythdoll. Of course, Jeff wouldn't be here without y'all's fine support, and we love having him on, and thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you to all the patrons that donate. It is a pleasure to be able to be here with you guys at least once a month, and to hear Dunk Train on the show as well. It's awesome that you guys hit those goals and that the community is supporting this fantastic show.
Where can people find more of you? And if I could make a recommendation, I love your Monday show.
Oh, thanks. It's called DLC. Every Monday we do a long-form video game show. Myself, Christian Spicer, and a guest. You can find that at 5by5.tv/DLC. But if you need more game talk, I do a daily video game show as well. It's called Newest, Latest, Best. Very quick hits. It's like 10 minutes a day. Keeps you updated on all the news that's hitting and games I'm playing and games that everybody's talking about. You can find that on iTunes and Google Play Music under Newest, Latest, Best, or by going to anchor.fm/NLB. I also do the /Filmcast, talking about movies and TV at /filmcast.com, and a comedy science show called We Have Concerns that you can find at wehaveconcerns.com.
Great shows. Anchor as well. Is that pretty new for you? I just found it recently.
Yeah, I just started it, I don't know, a couple months ago, 3 months ago. Yeah, I'm loving it, though. It's really cool. I hope people check it out. Newest, latest, best. And people can call in, so it's kind of this fun two-way street. I really dig the show.
Well, and you were apologizing on the last episode for Call Quad, but I loved it. It had this, like, I just ran out of the meeting in my car kind of, it was just so exciting. Your energy's intoxicating, and I love how impassioned you are on your own shows.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say. I appreciate it very much.
Now you bring that back over here. That'll do it for today. We have custom mugs, glasses, all that's over at the A-Move TV store. This show records live 8 p.m. Eastern time over at twitch.tv/AMoveTV. Of course, this time it was on my channel as Garrett was out of town. He will be back in full health, energy. It's a vacation. Everyone needs a little one. He'll be back soon. I've seen him, though, trying to find his Hearthstone cards while using hotel Wi-Fi. So hopefully he hasn't tilted himself too much in his absence.